Hello and welcome back to Web 2.0 Expo 2010 in San Francisco, and I have another very special guest for us this afternoon, Sam Ramji, VP of Open Strategy for VP of Strategy actually.
That's right.
For Sonoa.
That's right.
And Sonoa is a player in what I'm starting to call the open supply chain space, because it's something that regular business people can understand, but as developers we call them open APIs.
That's right.
And so you were showing me just a few minutes ago a fantastic presentation you actually delivered here at the show.
That's correct.
Right?
I just gave it this morning.
Yeah, and so can you just give us a kind of a synopsis of what you're seeing, what was in the presentation around how APIs are evolving, how they're driving forward success for online businesses, and just kind of catch us up with what's going on?
For sure. First of all, we're just seeing a ton of evolution. There's sort of a theory of punctuated equilibrium, which says things kind of stay the same for a while, and then in a surge they all change, and then they stay the same and they surge. So the web was a huge surge, and now open APIs are another huge surge.
Right.
And the big analogy we're seeing is in the 20th century in business, you had sort of this move from the beginning of the 20th century in direct businesses. You'd make the clothes, you'd sell the clothes, you'd advertise the clothes all from the same storefront, let's say in the New York Garment District.
Right.
But then by mid-century, you had this big move of population to the suburbs. People started buying their clothes from Sears. They couldn't have all those corner stores.
Exactly.
Now the winners in that game, there were a lot of losers. If you had a corner store and you couldn't figure out how to make that change, you were gone. But Nike, Procter & Gamble, North Face, Maytag, they figured out how to really use that indirect supply chain in a visionary way. They looked at it as a value chain and they were like, wow, the Sears guy is the last guy between me and the customer. Mm-hmm. So now I have to understand, how do I drive that behavior? How do I drive that motivation? So the really smart people in APIs today are saying for the next 10 years, we're going from a direct digital world to an indirect digital world. And so APIs are my path, that indirect channel.
All right, so is it true then that websites are no longer as important as they once were? That's this thing that seems to be living with them side by side. These APIs allow better avenues for growth and innovation? I mean, how does that work?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, let's just say that the social stratosphere is just changing all the time, right? Mm-hmm. You could map out what are consumer interest groups, what do they want to do, what's this particular brand mean to them, and it's all changing so fast you don't even have time to sort of plan and segment and market. 6 months could be too long, your market window may have closed. Right,
but the APIs allow you to kind of push that problem solving out to the cloud, right?
They do. It lets you push it out to all this world of developers who are now the last mile in your chain, right? They're the retail store in this world. They're going to write some cool iPhone app. They're going to write some great new website or application experience that appeals to a demographic you didn't know that you could reach.
Right.
In a form factor you didn't know you could reach, right? When's the last time you realized that you could reach somebody at a gas station, right, at the pump? They're starting to get screens on those pumps. How are applications flowing to a consumer standing there for a minute and a half while they're pumping gas?
Right.
You don't have the time to think of all these things, so APIs let you be available so you can be picked up and adopted by all these developers and carried around to all those niches. So it's about rapid adaptation into those niches by open APIs.
So it's not about necessarily even making all the products, it's about making them better, right?
It's the 3-ump story,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Well, one of the things that I think a lot of us have followed is your prediction of 80% of your traffic will come from beyond the browser. That's really shown up to be true for the winners.
Yep. If you look at Amazon, the vast majority of their traffic now comes from elsewhere.
Right.
It's not people visiting their global websites. They released that data. Most of their actual volume of business comes through their APIs and not their traditional websites. In Twitter, I had Alex Payne on this the show last year, and it said the same thing. 90% of the usage from Twitter comes through the APIs. Now that's gone down a little bit because it's mainstream so much, but it's likely to head back. But still, that's an amazing number, and close to the 80% you just said.
It's a huge number, and now that Twitter acquired Tweety, right, and they're having these branded experiences on different platforms, that's also going to hit their same API. So that API traffic will probably pop up again. But Twitter's a great example of a company that had sort of a very low-level website that really wasn't important, but they had a great API, and that allowed TweetDeck and Hootsuite and Twitterific and all these different applications to show up and teach everybody what could that system actually be used for. Yep. What does it mean to have something that could go via SMS as well as via short messages on the web?
Right.
Do you want to do analytics? Do you want to do business? Right. So that radial adaptation, that concept of the API, let Twitter adapt in all these niches, and now they're a force to be reckoned with. So that's a really neat model.
Yeah, and well, it's a scalable partnering model, right? Because most businesses are trapped in the scenario where if they want to partner with 5 or 10 companies and connect their IT systems together, they do all this integration on both sides. Whereas we've learned in the API space, you build it once and you harden it and you build it well and secure it, and then say everyone onboard yourself. If you want to build something really neat and you've got a fantastic idea and you love our data or whatever it is that we do, take something and create something great.
Absolutely right, and you and I are both victims of the EAI wars, right? We've seen the complexity of large-scale adaptation. I just finished talking to a customer a few minutes ago where they said, look, they were looking at a strategy to bring all this data together, build all their silos and all the different channels they had of reaching their customers together, and they were quoted multi-million-dollar fees for databases and monolithic solutions, and then finally they went, oh, we'll just use APIs. And so they connected all of their databases, their customer data repositories, their online inventory management system, all via APIs. They did it in 12 weeks with like 5 guys, and now they've got hundreds of thousands of new users using their goods and services. And this is a standard old economy, rental business. So just amazing how quickly people can get going on opening up a REST-based interface, letting millions of developers in who can use that kind of technology. And then you can just be shocked at the results.
Yep. Well, and so you're actually helping people, large companies, do this. I mean, can you tell us a couple of your stories?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Sonoa, we build sort of a Cisco class API gateway. So it's this very, very heavy lifting network architecture infrastructure for doing millions and millions of messages a day, having them secure, having them fine-grained, having them be cached.
Right.
We've worked with Sears, for example, where they've done some amazing work in opening up the Sears e-commerce API.
Really?
Because no longer just a website, but now they've got one of the deepest,
it's amazing
richest.
How a lot of the traditional retailers, because Best Buy did the same thing with Remix now,
Well, Best Buy did an amazing job, right? So Best Buy is a good story, right? Because they enabled some of their biggest successes. We're so far from the Best Buy brand.
Yeah.
They're a consumer electronics retail brand. Do you want to be that? Do you want to build a bridal registry? Are any women going to go to your site? Not that many, but one of their biggest pull-throughs.
They're not going to go, Best Buy would be great.
Right, but they ended up being this very popular bridal registry site that used Best Buy's product finder and the recommendation engine. And of course, when it was time to execute the transaction, who took it in the back end? Best Buy, so they made money. So Sears has got a similar model, but they've got one of the broadest, deepest, richest sort of legacy data catalogs in the world. They sell everything from bolts to tractors to, fashion, accessories and whatever. So that's a neat model.
Fascinating. So, well, I'd like to thank you for stopping by and kind of sharing your stories. How can we find you, and how do we locate you on Twitter and that sort of thing?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at sramji. That's at SRAM for Mike, J for Juliet, I for India. You can find me online at sonoasystems.com. And we'll be posting up the Web 2.0 presentation. Hopefully you'll get a chance to look at it and maybe include that with this video.
Yeah, I'll share that out over Twitter as well. All right. Well, thanks so much, Sam. I
Awesome,
appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you.